CrossFitters are weak. This is not clickbait. This is my opinion. And it's my opinion relative to everything else that they do. Now, I'm not going to slag on CrossFitters because I think they're some of the most incredible athletes on the planet, but their sport is skewed pretty far away from strength and pretty far towards muscular endurance. Of course, you watch their events and that's what they're doing. But I think it's interesting to look at the qualities that they train and how far off they are of world records, because the explanation of how incredible they are has to come with some sort of reference point, and I'm going to give that to you today. Now, to start out with strength and comparing them to the best, the strongest in the world, for max deadlift, Chandler Smith hit 610 pounds at the Rogue Invitational in 2023. If we contrast that to the all-time max raw deadlift at 1,014 pounds, CrossFitters are 60% as strong. Okay, if we just take the number one and the number one, 60% as strong. If we go to Olympic lifting, which they are well versed in, Jack Farlow hit a 396 pound clean and jerk at the 2023 CrossFit Games, and Jake Douglas has hit a 310 pound snatch. If you add those two together and you compare them to the total of Lasha, which is a 496 pound snatch and a 588 pound clean and jerk, which blows my fucking mind, they're about 65% of the power. So 60% strength, 65% power. They're pretty far off these strength numbers in the world, but they're only far off because of what I'm about to talk about. Now, 5 trainable qualities. We have strength, power, hypertrophy, muscular endurance, and aerobic fitness. When it comes to hypertrophy, we don't have a quantifiable number, but we have an individual's name, and this individual is Jake Douglas. You look at Jake Douglas and you compare him to an NFL running back, Jake Douglas and Derrick Henry, like, they look the same. I can't give you a number on how close it is to how much muscle they can stack on, and none of us look like bodybuilders, but evidently putting on muscle and having good aesthetics is not a problem for CrossFitters in the least. When it comes to aerobic fitness, I took a look at the 1 mile time because this is something that they did in the 2024 CrossFit Games. Now, I don't think many people were at their best in the 2024 CrossFit Games, and if you don't know why, don't worry about it. Adverse circumstances meant that they were definitely not mentally there. But Ricky Garrard, 4 minutes and 55 seconds was his time. The world record time for the 1 mile is done by Hisham El Guru at 3:43. And that means that the aerobic capacity of Ricky Garrard is approximately 76% of that of Hisham El Guru. Now, you guys are probably screaming at the screen right now, telling me about how you can't just compare this guy to this guy because there's different weight classes. I've done that for you. So let's take another look at all of these numbers and compare them to weight classes. And we're going to start with aerobic fitness and work our way back to strength, because this aerobic fitness stat blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. There's never been a man over 200 pounds to run a sub 4-minute mile. Never officially recorded. Now, Ricky is 205 pounds. The average CrossFitter would be somewhere in around that weight. And if we say 4 minutes, 10 seconds is the best anyone's ever run over 200 pounds for a mile, CrossFitters are 90% the capacity of elite runners at the 1 mile mark. And that was the 4th event of the day. So say Ricky could have run that in 4:40 if he was fresh. We're creeping up on like really, really elite level aerobic fitness for their body weight. Now, let's go back to some of the strength. So if we go clean and jerk and snatch, again, we had Jack Farlow hit 396 pound clean and jerk. Jake Douglas hit 310 pound snatch. The world record for their body weight in and around 200 pounds is a 401 pound snatch and a 493 pound clean and jerk. This is a 894 pound total and brings it to 79% of the total of the world record for Olympic lifting. If we take a look at the Rogue Invitational in 2022, when they did the log lift, which is a great direct comparison for us, Chandler Smith hit 300 pounds and that won the event. The under 90 kilo log world record is 367 pounds, meaning Chandler was 82% of the log lift world record. Caveat, Chandler never practiced on a log. They didn't know that log was going to be in it. They had some inkling. Some of them tried it a few times, but you certainly weren't conditioned to it. You certainly weren't prepared for it. They certainly didn't know what they were doing. In fact, they were cleaning the log from their hip, not from their stomach. And that was the hardest part for most of them. They were split jerking it. I watched Chandler do this live, and the log barely cleared his head when he split jerked it, and managed to hit 300 pounds. So that 300 would easily creep up to 320, 330 if he had some time to practice with the log. And then we're up at 85 to 90% of the current world record. Now, the numbers get a little bit out of whack if we compare deadlifts for enhancement reasons and whatnot, so we're going to leave that conversation to the side. But what we should be talking about is these guys and girls, their numbers would mimic, but it's simpler just to go with one subset. They are 85 to 95% of Olympic level at many different disciplines. Now, I've come out before and said I believe that decathletes are the best athletes in the world because they got 10 sports to focus on. But with CrossFit, they have their gymnastics, they have their aerobic fitness, they have their swimming, they have their Olympic lifting, they have their powerlifting, and they have their anaerobic repeated sprints, their conditioning, their top end speed. So many different facets that they're training at the same time, and they still manage to be 85 to 95% of Olympic level. How do they do this? Well, I've spent a little bit of time around these CrossFitters, and partially you just have to go, well, they're genetic freaks, but they train twice a day for multiple hours per day. Half of the day usually is spent on skill, half of the day is usually spent on some sort of metabolic conditioning, and that's how the vast majority of them train. You're talking a 5 to 6 hour commitment to training. In contrast, strongmen, we might commit 2.5 hours per day, and that's about it, which is why in strength sports, we fall way short on technique. I introduced a split jerk and I broke the axle clean and press world record. Now, a lot of the difficulty is in the clean, not in the press. Still, I did a terrible quality split jerk. I worked with Sonny Webster. We did our best, and it was, I would grade it maybe a 3.5 to a 4 out of 10, but I managed to get up 480 pounds. Could you imagine if I took the time and practiced for hours and hours to perfect that technique as one element of many techniques that I was aiming to perfect, how unstoppable that I would become? And really, any strongman would become if they committed to it. I think the overall lesson in this is not that CrossFitters are weak, it's not that CrossFitters are incredible athletes, but it's that they put so much time into their sport that if that was replicated in other sports, and I'm talking any other sport, I'm talking basketball or football or strongman or powerlifting, if you really took that time to work on the technique, not burn your nervous system the whole time, the heights that you could go to would be astronomical. And I think that is an element in strength sports that we are lacking. Could the log world record be 520, 530 pounds? Could the axle clean and press world record go from 480 pounds to over 500? I firmly believe that those answers are yes. But I think those answers are yes if we start to adopt some of the methodology, some of that hard work, some of the grit that these guys and girls exhibit on a day-to-day basis. We got to train smarter, we got to train harder, but I think there are whole new heights that sport could go to, inspired by these CrossFitters. I would love to know what you guys think. What do you think of CrossFit in general? Are we generally pro CrossFit? Personally, I love it. I think it is phenomenal. I think that it is a great way to keep people moving, particularly people who are athletes in the past, and strongman is great for people who might just be trying to get in shape for the first time. It might be a little bit less daunting. You might feel success a little bit earlier. Now, when you're doing that, if you want people to feel welcomed and inspired in the gym, go ahead, check out the merch link in the description in the bio. Please let me know your thoughts down below. As per usual, lift heavy, be kind. We're uploading every single day, so please subscribe to the channel, and we will catch you tomorrow.